Hey guys, good morning. It's Miss Rodriguez again. I hope you have been enjoying my videos on YouTube as well as my teacher blog. Let me correct that. My teacherism blog, because there's going to be a lot of things connected to my journey into leadership, school leadership. So my blog is Geneva Rodriguez 3.blogspot. Geneva Rodriguez 3.blogspot. And my Twitter is G Rodriguez 183. G Rodriguez 183. Which you probably have, because if you're seeing this, it's because you saw it on my Twitter. But just thought I can mention that. But my new blog post is called Boundaries, Student Teacher Relationships. And this was inspired by a post that I put up on February 13th on Facebook. So I'm part of some Facebook groups for teachers, for resources, for tech. But sometimes a lot of people just use it to go on off on rants, to vent, and I get it. You know, a lot of us don't have therapists, so we use social media as our outlet, and it could be a good or a bad thing, right? Which that can be another blog post. But this one is on relationships you have with your students. So on February 13th, I posted this. And if you check my blog, I actually put a screenshot of my actual post on Facebook. My why. I have this student who calls me every weekend and sings happy birthday to me on my voicemail. My birthday is in August. I love my job, I love my students, pandemic, zombie apocalypse, or shortage of coffee, I wouldn't change it for the world. So I had to throw some humor in there. But overall, it was supposed to be just, like a cute post, just shedding some light on what's been going on. Also just reminding people to think of their whys of why they went into education, why they're still in education, because I know there has been, unfortunately, a lot of people who have been questioning if they should be in education, if they should be in school leadership, and a lot of people are dying to get out of it. And I do feel like it's disheartening. It is sad that there can be something that questions your why, your passion, and I do feel in a career such as education, you really have to have the right heart posture. You really have to be very compassionate and love your job, because it's not about us. Our job as educators are selfless. It's a selfless job. It's a selfless responsibility. And while we do sometimes feel that we should get that recognition, it's not one of those jobs where we're serving, right? When you serve, you're not supposed to be expecting a good job or a high five or pat on your back. But as humans, we do seek that, we do crave that, right? Because it does help us feel good about what we're doing. But yeah, so I posted that, and it got a lot of feedback, good and bad. A lot of people loved it. They're like, oh, that's nice, that's cute, that's sweet. It made me laugh. But then there were some people that, of course, when you're posting on social media, you're opening it for the world, right? You got to be receptive to everyone's perspective on what you're posting. It's now public domain, right? So you have to expect that there's going to be people that just don't agree. They have different views, perspectives, just everything's different. So one person, which again, they're on the screen, shots on my blog, Geneva Rodriguez 3.blogspot.com. This is her response. My own children were very upset when students would invade our family. I would never share my number with students. You have to set boundaries. And I'm reading it like that in that tone. I don't know if she meant it like that, but that's how I read it. Especially when she used that word invade our family. Let me read it again. My own children who were very upset when students would invade. My own children were very upset when students would invade our family. I would never share my number with students. You have to set boundaries. Okay, so she's entitled to that, right? And I did go on and I did respond to her. And I did say that we all have our own relationships with our students, and we all have our own boundaries. And while she's entitled to her opinion, I'm glad she shared it. But that this is the relationship I have with my students. And for me, it was cute that he decided to call me. And I do work with special needs students, District 75 in New York City. My students have severe disabilities and function way below their chronological age, right? So our students are alternately assessed. Um, they do not get graduate. They do not graduate. They do not take standardized tests. And most of them would need family and friends or caregivers to support them and provide for them and feed them and help them bathe for the rest of their lives, right? So the dynamics of my students are totally different and my situation is totally different. And I get, like, I didn't put that information in my blog, in my post, so maybe, but even so, regardless, right? Like, we are teachers, we are educators, we took on this position, and we are with these students, with our students for 8 hours a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. And we have a responsibility, right? But like we've all learned, I mean, I know I've learned a lot about relationships my whole life, but as I went into my school leadership classes, we learned a lot more. It's all about relationships, and that is the entryway, that is the doorway to any type of communication or relationship or any productive collaboration, right? So even when it comes to our students, we need relationships with our students. It should be one of our it should be one of our priorities when we meet our students at the beginning of the year, to start building those relationships and individual relationships, right? If you read my blog, I go more into it. We shouldn't just throw kids in a batch and treat them the same, right? No two students learn the same. No two students are the same. Each student has their own family dynamics. If my teacher only knew, right? I think that's the name of the book, that it's really hits home with this. Yeah, I think that's the name of it. I apologize if I'm chopping up the name, but we don't know what's going on at home. We don't know the dynamics of our students' families, right? Especially at home now with remote learning, with this pandemic, with COVID. Things are different. The world is upside down. And I was so excited and so happy. Even though it was a 7:30 p.m. phone call from my student, it still made me happy because, one, I knew he was okay. And two, I knew that I built those relationships with my students where they felt safe enough to call me, even though I didn't pick it up. But I did listen to the voicemail because, God forbid, it was something like, like they're in trouble. I'm going to be there, okay? Like, I'm not a teacher only from 8 to 3 or 7 to 3 or 4. I am a teacher all the time. It's me. That's who I am. And I took on that job knowing that as an educator, your job never turns off. And I get it. Oh, turn off your emails, set boundaries, do this. You shouldn't be working outside of work hours, this and this and that. To each his own, whatever you choose to do. But my blog kind of touches bases on the type of relationships I have with my students, how I build those relationships, why I feel those relationships are important, and also just focuses on, it mentions, more about, like, now with the pandemic, us focusing on, the social emotional well-being of our students, even of our own social emotional well-being, right? Like, we need to stay away from the academics. We need to stay away from that, being that stone cold educator. Like, and if that's your approach, I think you need to reevaluate your position as an educator or in the educational field, because as an educator, we are friends, we are teachers, we are nurses, we are coaches, we are tutors, we are sounding boards, right? We are therapists. We become so much more. We wear so many hats, and we have to be receptive to that, because no two students are the same, and no two students need the same attention or relationships, and you have to accept that. And I accept it with open arms. I love the relationships I have with my students. During our check-in, they're not the only ones checking in. I'm checking in because it's for me as well. Like, we are all fragile. We were all traumatized because of this, because of COVID and being quarantined and having to wear masks and having to be forced to learn over a screen, which is not really feasible for all our students, especially with my special needs students. being on a computer, it's so complicated to teach them, to reach them. And while I'm making every effort too, I know that they need more. They need more outside of the classroom, you know, outside of this, behind the screen, right? Like whether it's a phone call, or whether we do art projects, or whether we are playing a game on Kahoot, right? Like I am trying to keep those relationships, and that their social, their well-being, their emotional well-being is important to me. I'm trying to keep it a focal point. And yeah, we might not get worksheets, we might not get assessments, we might not get, sorry, we do get assessments, but meaning like we're not, it's not our main focal point. Like we're not just focusing on assessments. Oh, let's get the data, let's do this, because we know that it's not accurate data we can collect through a computer, right? We know that a lot of their parents are assisting them. We know that they don't get the assistance. We know that even when we were at school with them, they needed that hands-on. They needed repetition. They needed modeling. They needed one-to-one support from teachers, from paraprofessionals. We're focusing on their social well-being, social emotional, I'm sorry, their social emotional well-being. We're making sure they're okay, making sure they're being fed, right? My social check-ins in the morning are making sure that they ate, making sure they had dinner, and if not, directing them to where they can get the food. I focus on how they're feeling, like genuinely how they're feeling. 90% of them, I'm good. No, I want you to dig in. I gotta check on my students if they're taking care of their personal hygiene. Yeah, those are things that I have to focus on with my students. And it might be a different type of situation with you depending on the demographics of your students and the academic levels and cognitive levels and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, it does start with relationships. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little triggered by her response, and I first wanted to respond like in a very like defensive and attack mode, but then that would kind of like throw off, you know, the intentions I had for posting my, you know, my little story about my students singing happy birthday to me. And my birthday is not till August, but this is like almost every weekend he does this, and it's amazing. And especially for my student, he doesn't speak. He literally he responds 1 to 2 words. That's one of his goals, right? To respond in a full sentence and stuff like that. Everything is good or okay or or fine, right? And the fact that he was able to sing happy birthday, to me, that was like, wow. That made me super happy. That was just like winning. And he did it for me. So I guess just reflecting on why you're an educator, why are you in the educational field, reflecting on your relationships with your students, reflecting on how your relationships can improve, how you can change your relationships, and how that is going to in turn affect your students' social, emotional well-being and their academic success. Because I do feel it's all intertwined. And as educators and as future school leaders, we know that like it's all intertwined. And if we take that time to build those personal one-on-one relationships with our students, we're going to see a change. We're going to see a change within ourselves. We're going to see a change within how we address them, how we handle them, how we just work all together with them. We're going to see a change in their attitudes, in the way they handle school, in the way they are receptive to learning new concepts and skills in the classroom, right? It's everything. And again, like I mentioned this in my blog too, the classroom management is going to be awesome. It's going to be popping, because trying to manage a class on a social media, I mean, in a class alone in a school building, it's challenging. You have to set that tone from the beginning of the year and stay consistent. But trying to do that on an online platform, yeah, it's super challenging. It's super hard, and it's not easy, and it takes a lot of consistency and just like keep staying on top of it, and tons of incentives, right? Like I use Class Dojo, so I give them their points, so I give them praises, we clap them, we do a little happy dance, woo-hoo-hoo, whatever you know your students like, you do that. Again, like it's gonna look different for everybody because of the students you work with, but find what works for them. It's not about you. This is a selfless act, and you need to focus on them, and remember that, and those relationships are important. I even had to add personal hygiene to our points. And then I had to get more specific, right? Like, so I noticed all the kids were, I'm brushing my teeth. Okay, you're getting your points. But then I'm like, are you washing up? Like, are you taking showers? And a lot of them were not. And yeah, this is an issue. That's what I'm saying. Like, academics is kind of on the back burner right now, making sure that they're good at home, right? So I had to be more specific. Showers and brushing your teeth. And within 2 weeks, I had such an amazing turnover. Like everybody wants to get their hygiene points. And I have everyone washed up and fresh and ready for our live instruction. It works, whatever works. But those are the relationships you have to build with your students. So I hope you enjoy my blog. I am curious as to what you guys think about it. Boundaries when it comes to student-teacher relationships. I know it's gonna look different for everybody. I work for District 75 in Brooklyn, and it's just different. And I would be curious to see how that works for like a general education class, an elementary school, right? A middle school, a private school, whatever. Like, please use this platform to respond. Like, I just don't want people to view. I want this to be more of an interactive thing. Read my blog. Again, it's Geneva Rodriguez 3.blogspot.com. My Twitter is grodriguez183. My Instagram is teach_ISM. So like teachism. So teach is TEACH_ISM. And I'm talking to you like you're my students. So sorry. But I hope you enjoy this. Please give me feedback. Enjoy your day.